speaking of the MVP, right, there's the 65 game rule. So you're not eligible unless you played 65 games. Now, from my background as a physical therapist and all this talk about whether or not this rule should be in place, I find it troubling because a player like Cade has meant so much to Detroit, and they would not be number one seed in the East. They would not be anywhere without him. And he's out with something that happens to regular folks, right? This is something that's serious, could actually be life-threatening, and to have the all NBA be taken away and also chances of getting MVP and then also potentially ruining money with players. What are your thoughts on that, especially when it comes to like these major injuries that kind of happen towards the end of the season?
Yeah, so I hated the 65 game rule from the moment they conceived it, because it's too rigid, because the number is too arbitrary, and because, as a longtime media member who, for most of my 29 years covering the league, the New York Times doesn't allow you to vote. It's a Times rule. So my 9 years at the Times, I was not a voter, but I've been a voter for most of the 29 years that I've covered this league. I take it very seriously. Most of us do. We put a lot of time in. And one of the things that we consider when voting for MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, All NBA, Rookie of the Year, all of it, we always consider games played. Yeah. And some people go even down to minutes played. I've always thought that was a little bit too granular, but whatever. Participation has always mattered. And if you look at the results over the decades, it reflects that. We've always weighed that in. But the NBA had a problem a few years ago when they were negotiating this collective bargaining agreement. Load management, player rest was becoming a scourge, almost to the extent that tanking is this season, where it was driving the league crazy. Stars especially aren't playing. They're not playing on the road. They're not playing in national games. We've got a TV deal coming up. We need our broadcast partners to believe that they'll get the most bang for their buck, because it's a lot of fucking bucks, by the way. And so what do? They created a rule to try to induce players and the medical staffs on teams, because as we should be clear, and Evan, you know this, players aren't the ones saying, I want to rest.
No.
Right? It's the medical staffs that are bringing to bear all of their expertise, all the modern science, all the sports science, tracking, biometrics, everything, where they're saying, we think you'd be better off skipping this game. Players would rather just play. The vast majority of them. I've been covering this league a long time. Most of these guys do not want to rest. So, fans should not get this twisted. It's usually the team that is telling the player. So the only way to, not the only way, one way the NBA just thought to solve this was, well, if we create a rule, 65 games where you don't qualify for postseason awards, the players themselves will be motivated. They already were, but now the players can put the pressure, and their agents can put the pressure on the team, saying, hey, don't rest my guy. You're now risking awards. You're risking his legacy. You're risking all this other stuff. I don't know how much it's actually even worked, to be honest. I think that's still up for debate. But this season is now becoming the worst case scenario, the one that a lot of us feared when they first adopted this, which is a lot of guys who are worthy of recognition may be disqualified based on the rule alone. And if your goal as the NBA was to discourage resting, okay, fine, but you didn't account for actual, real, tangible, legitimate injuries. And what they should have done was make a distinction between rest games and injury games. And they failed to do that. And so Cade Cunningham with a collapsed lung, which is scary as hell, by just the phrase sounds scary as hell to me. Evan, you can speak to it better than I can, but like that sounds scary as hell.
It is life-threatening.
Yeah. So that's legit, right? Jokic's knee was legit. Like Shea was out a bunch of games. There's still a possibility of Shea and Jokic and Anthony Edwards being disqualified based on real injuries. We are in a time when the league has never been more demanding on players and their physical health, because of the way the game is played, because of the pace, because of the 3-point line, because of how much space they have to cover. I'm sorry, it's not an 82 game season anymore for most players.
Yes.
We're not in the 80s and 90s anymore. And so it's all problematic. And I'll just end on this, which is, if as a league you've decided we need to have a cutoff because player rest and load management was getting out of hand, okay. It shouldn't bar them entirely. What I hate as a voter is, if Jokic is not, let's use him as an example. If he misses 2 more games and he's off, right?
Yeah.
It's now all or nothing. I would like to still be able to make. You want to say he can't be MVP, fine, but I still want him on my MVP ballot, because in the old days, before the 65 game rule, I would have already calibrated that. I would have baked that in and said, you know what? Jokic was dominant in his 64 games, but Shea played, let's say, 75 and was just as dominant. Shea gets it, but Jokic is second or third, wherever.
Yeah.
I can't even place him third or fourth or fifth, because the 65 game rule obliterates him from the ballot entirely. They sent us a drop down an electronic ballot, and with the 65 game rule in effect, that player, if they don't make 65, is not even there in the drop down menu. So I can't put him anywhere on the ballot, and that goes for all NBA too. I would like to put Jokic based on games played. Maybe I want to drop him to second team because he didn't play as many as a bunch of guys I want to put on first team. I'm not saying that's a fact. I'm just saying, hypothetically, I don't have the option now to even put him on second team or third team based on fewer games, because he's just not on the ballot at all. He's not in that electronic drop down menu that they issue to us. So it's too rigid. They need to revisit it, and I think they will.
Yeah, I mean, those are some great points. I love the ones distinguishing between rest and injury, and essentially, like, your injury one shouldn't really technically count. But like we've said this before, we are like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand, like, if you played 45 games or 50 games, you're not going to be in the MVP discussion, right? So, like, I think things like that are just like, but when it comes to like somebody playing 60, 62, 64, and you're not able to be on all NBA or even be on the ballot, that's where we have a problem, where everybody has problems with.
I understand why the NBA did it, but it was the wrong solution to the problem, and it was too rigid.